As the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United, Allina Health is focused on keeping our Loons in top condition. And with expertise in orthopedics, sports medicine, heart care, and more, Allina has the team to keep your family in the game too. The experts at Allina Health take the time to get to know you as a whole person, helping you achieve wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. It's an altogether better kind of healthcare. Learn more at allinahealth.org. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sound of the Loons, presented by Allina Health Orthopedics, or Allina Health. And I'm Kyndra St. Aubin, and I get to be joined by a special guest today, Tim Ream of the U.S. men's national team, St. Louis native, which we got to throw that in there because I know you were just in St. Louis and you got to wear the captain's armband. So first and foremost, thank you for taking the time. I was just saying before we started recording, I understand what your schedules are like. So I know day of game podcast isn't the norm for you guys. So we appreciate you taking the time this morning.
It's not a problem. The morning is the quietest part of the day for us on a match day. So it's not too bad at all.
So I want to just start a little bit with your history because before we jump straight into the national team and what you guys are doing and why you're in St. Paul and all that jazz, I just want to talk a little bit about your career and sort of your path and your journey. So I just mentioned St. Louis. You played in St. Louis for college. You were drafted in MLS to play, and you played for the Red Bulls. But what was that like to be back in St. Louis and playing and wearing the captain's armband in front of that crowd?
It was interesting. I mean, you think about when you're a kid playing in a stadium, right? You're playing in your hometown as a professional, and I don't know that you ever dream or think that you're going to do it as a U.S. team, right? As a U.S. player, and then to listen, it's an honor to be a captain of the team at any point, but then to be able to do it in your hometown. In the first year, obviously that they have a stadium, and to be able to do that in front of people who helped me become, and get to the place I am today was just it was a really cool moment, and something that, in a long list of moments in my career will be one of the ones that stick out the most.
And when you look at your career and playing club soccer there, and you just said it, people that have helped you along the way at different levels and different moments in your life, when you look back at how your journey started with soccer, I mean, take us way back. Like what made you get into soccer? What made you love soccer? Was soccer always the thing, or how did that come about? Because I feel like everybody's journey is kind of a little bit different.
And it's very different now. These, the kids coming up, their journeys are very different to mine and how it started. I mean, there were no academies when I was coming through St. Louis. It was just club ball. And so, for me, it was always, the game was always a part of kind of family gatherings. My dad was a coach, for a long time in the St. Louis area. And I don't even know, do they do ODP? He was an ODP coach.
I was just gonna ask you, did you play ODP? Because that was like the thing when I grew up. But you're way younger than me, but ODP was like my thing.
Never. I was never on any ODP team. My dad coached long before I was even able to, or at that age, to play ODP. And so him being a coach, he coached at a small school, Washington University here in St. Louis, and I would go with him to see him coach, and I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I just always had a ball at my feet. Played a lot of other sports, loved playing other sports as well, but as I got older, I realized that I didn't enjoy playing those sports as much as I did with soccer. And so it was just kind of natural, and it built and built and built. And Like I said, no academies, just played club ball, played with, became really good friends, a really good team with a really good coach in Tommy Howe. And yeah, went from there. Never on any youth national teams, nothing. Just went the old traditional high school, club, college, and out I went.
When you look back at that early journey, and I guess what is early for you? Because I feel like now it's like if someone hasn't, started playing on a team by the time they're 3 or 4, it's like they feel like they're behind. When you say at what point you started playing, and then maybe what point you even started to narrow in on soccer specifically, what was that? Because I always feel like I still preach, and I hear a lot of people that are playing at your level now preach that multi-sports when you're growing up is actually super beneficial to whatever sport you end up with at the end.
I'm a huge believer in multi sports, and I see it a lot. Okay, so for me, it started, I think, probably 3 or 4 years old. I distinctly remember being in my my grade school, and playing on a weekend, and the teams that were, the school teams, the grade school teams that you had, it was just your grade, like you weren't playing with anybody else. Teams that were older, a year older, 2 years older, needing an extra player because so and so didn't show up, and they weren't, it wasn't that serious at the time. So let's just take the the little boy who was hanging around the fields. And so I distinctly remember playing with first graders when I was in kindergarten or younger, and so that was kind of how it started for me. But I didn't narrow down. I mean, I played baseball until I was a freshman in high school. I played basketball until I was a senior. When I turned 17, I was like, okay, I need to really now just focus on soccer. And but yeah, I'm a huge believer in multi sports, and I see it all the time with young kids now coming up and becoming professionals, is that they they've only played soccer, right? And so they've only developed certain certain muscle groups in a certain way. They don't, the basketball, where there's a lot of cutting, baseball is very different. You use different muscle groups, upper body. And so it's, yeah, I do believe that playing multi sports is important for growth, for development, but also to be around people who are just different, playing different sports, who have different interests. And I find that, I mean, I have my own kids doing that. They're doing swimming, they're doing tennis, they're doing soccer. They they do a lot, because I think it's important to be well rounded, not only physically but off the field as well.
I always love that too, because I feel like you nailed the like physical attributes of like you're just working different muscles, different joints and everything, but the whole like camaraderie of different groups of friends that are playing different things. And you even like playing high school versus club. I feel like a lot of kids nowadays are like, hey, I'm not going to play high school, I'm only going to play club. And there are some clubs that don't even let the kids play high school if it happens to overlap too much with the season. I experienced that when I lived in Arizona, and I was like, that's insane, because I just felt like you're missing out on so much of just like the friendships, the relationships, the team spirit, the school spirit, where high school is so different than club soccer or club whatever sport you choose to be in at the end. So I love that. It seems like you kind of have the same mindset. And St. Louis is so strong in so many sports. I've done a few St. Louis games there now for MLS. And, there's always St. Louis Blues players at the soccer games. The hotel they put us in is right across from the baseball stadium. So there's a massive sports vibe in St. Louis in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that helps when your city has a lot of different sports going on. For me, I loved my again. I have to give the caveat that there wasn't the choice. You had to play high school. The club season was finished. There was a rule. There was no club during high school season, and so it was great. Like you said, the camaraderie of playing with guys that you go to school with. You see them from 9 to 3, and then you go to training and practice, and you play the games, and it builds those those relationships. But I'm going to stay out of that club versus high school debate, because I know it's raging everywhere at the moment, and it's hard to say, to tell kids, listen, you have to do this and you have to do that. And I think for some it makes sense. It makes sense to only play club and not play high school. For others, it makes sense to play high school and both. It's difficult to tell somebody, just like it's difficult at they do it over in England at 10 and 11 years old. You're not going to be good enough to make it professionally. Well, how can you say each kid is different? Each kid's goal is different. So I'm going to stay out of it, but I just think it's so important for kids to choose and be individuals and decide on their own what they think is best for them.
It's probably just like anything in life, to each their own. You have to figure
Yeah,
out, what works best for you or your family. It's like kids going pro instead of maybe going to college in the United States originally wasn't really a thing. I remember when
exactly.
Olivia Horan did that for the women, and it was like, whoa, what is she doing? She's not going to college, she's going overseas and going pro, let alone staying in the United States. And I want to talk about your move from college to being drafted, and then your choice or your decision or being wanted to go overseas. What was that process? I just read too. I feel like I read that you got married, you canceled your honeymoon, and you went overseas. I'm not sure how that went down. And I thought I read a quote that said you're still happy and that was the right decision. And maybe your wife agrees. I don't know, but like, how did that all go down and come about? And how is your better half?
I'm still repaying and paying all these years later, but it's pretty much how it happened. There was a lot of discussion, obviously, in everybody knows the MLS season runs, until December if you're lucky, if you have a good run. And at the time, it only ran probably until late October because of the number of teams. And so everybody gets married in the off season. You get married in December, January, and we were no different. And the transfer window coincides with January. So our wedding happened, and the transfer window and negotiations were ongoing. I remember being at the wedding, being at the reception after, and knowing that everything was happening very quickly. And my agent was there, and he's like, listen, don't worry about it. Like, just enjoy the night. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to think anything about it. So I just assumed that it was just going to, take time, that negotiations were ongoing, and I'd be able to go on the honeymoon and come back from the honeymoon, and, then everything would happen. Great. That would be perfect timing. No, it was the day after. It was about 12 hours later, a phone call. You need to get on an airplane to head over. And I can't say that my wife was too happy in that moment, which I don't blame her. I was a little bit taken aback and unsure, but it all worked out in the end. And here we are, what is it, 13 to 11, 12 years later, still over there. So that is a true story. It's not one that I bring up too often anymore, because trying to move past that. But it was an interesting time. I'll say that.
Maybe it's just the woman part of me bringing that up, because I can only imagine what that felt like. And when I read that you married is it a high school sweetheart?
No, so
or
we
college?
we met in college. Yeah, we were
Okay.
both at St. Louis University. So we met in college, and probably when we were our junior year. So when we were about 20, 21 years old, and we've stuck it out. So it's been a long, a good long journey.
That's awesome. I can appreciate that. And how old are your kids, and how has that been, raising a family and being overseas? What's that experience been like?
Crazy. I mean, they were all born over in England, which, they identify as American, but then they know England is home. And so, they're now, the oldest one is 9, and I have a 7-year-old, and then the younger one will be 5 in less than a month, actually. So it's been good. I mean, they have their own little set of friends. They're at a school where there's, it's an international school, so there's a lot of Americans that are around, a lot of different nationalities, which is great. It exposes them, again, off the field, exposes them to so many different cultures and different types of people, which has been fantastic. And I think that's like the one thing that we're really appreciative of. We're away from home, we're away from family. We've been away, since college, basically, and having the tight kind of family knit, the way we are, and but also have friends around us, it's been great. It's been hard at times, especially when I'm traveling for national team and summer games and different situations, like that. But we can't listen. It's at the end of the day, the career is short. But it's great being over there. It's great having all of them, and like I said, being a tight knit family, and they don't seem to mind, as long as they have their friends. As we know, kids, as long as they have their little social unit, they're going to be fine.
They're usually way more resilient than adults and adaptive
Way more
than adults. So I can always appreciate hearing those stories, because I feel like they just kind of go with the flow. I mean, there might be a little bump in the road here and there, but they don't seem to stress as much as adults do in new environments. So that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit.
Not. I agree.
I wanted to ask you too about what that was like, getting back to sort of the full circle national team. You said you didn't play on any youth national teams, and then here you go, all of a sudden getting the call up and getting a cap. I believe it was in 2010 when you were first brought in. What was that like for you? What was that moment like, knowing how your career had gone and how you had seen sort of other people? And did you ever think that was a real possibility with the way your journey had gone?
No, I think again, as I said at the beginning, it's always a dream. Like you always think in the back of your head, okay, maybe one day that would be cool. Like, could I be a part of the national team? Yeah, maybe if I do really well and I work really hard. It was in 2010. It was South Africa, and that was, yeah. I mean, it was very unexpected. You finish your rookie year, and you get a call saying, hey, we want you to come and be a part of the team, and that you've not taken a traditional kind of path where a lot of these guys have played with the youth national teams and the under 17s, the under 19, the 21, 23, whatever that is. And you've not done any of that. And I was not part of was never even close to any of it. And so it makes it a little bit more gratifying that you've come through and done it differently than a lot of people, than a lot of guys who have played at the national team, the men's national team level. And I just think it was a proud moment, not one that I thought, oh, I'm gonna I can make this stick and make a what is it now, 13 years within the program. You don't ever expect that to be the case, but again, it just goes down to and boils down to working hard and continually trying to be better and trying to improve. And I think that's the biggest kind of takeaway for me from the career that I've had.
And on that career, when you look at how the journey has been since 2010, and still playing overseas, but these different international windows, these different call-ups, these different camps, younger players coming in, kind of this rotation of squad, how have you managed that? And what was even 2022 like? Because that's the most recent thing in people's mind. If they're going to watch this and listen to this, they're thinking about 2022 and what that World Cup was like in Qatar and what kind of impact you had on that roster, especially in addition to and with the injury to Miles Robinson and him not being a part of that sort of center back contingency that you guys had for the World Cup. So what was that journey like when you're waiting and trying to keep your game on point for every single call up and window? And then, qualifying for 2022 after missing 2018 as a country for the US men's team. And then that kind of that proud moment of how well you guys did in the tournament.
Yeah, I think after 2018, you start to try to rethink things and figure out what went wrong, where you maybe didn't do as well as you wanted to, or contribute the way you wanted to. Obviously, 2022, you again, it's you start to contribute, me personally, and then you kind of have to make some tough decisions in terms of family and missing a call up, and then all of a sudden you're completely out of the picture. So that was tough. But at the end of the day, I thought, well, I can't control that. The only thing I can control is what I'm doing at club level. And if that's good enough, great. If it's not good enough, then that's someone else's decision. I can't, that's not something I can control. And I'm not one that's going to continually call up and say, listen, why not me? Why am I not being a part of a part of this group? And at the end of it, when the call does come and it's unexpected, you're out of the picture and out of the squad for over a year. You're like, wait a minute, I've not been doing anything different now. Obviously, injuries happen. Miles has an injury. Chris Richards as well picked up a little bit of an injury, and so that changed. But I didn't feel like I was a different player or doing anything crazy or doing anything special. And then I didn't feel that from the staff that they were completely confident that I could help the group, even if it was me not playing, every single minute. I felt that I could be a big part of the group and help the group in a lot of ways, not just playing ways. That obviously, changed a little bit because when I got the phone call, I actually hung up the phone and I told my wife, listen, if I'm going to go, I'm going to play, and I'm going to play every game that we have. And no one's gonna tell me different. No one's gonna stop me from that. And I think I owed it to not just myself, not my family. That those two are important, of course, but to the guys who didn't get the chance, to the guys who didn't get the opportunity, to the guys who picked up the injuries, Miles and Chris, who were probably on the air, probably on the plane going to the World Cup instead of me. And I sat down and I said, okay, do I want to do this? Can I do this? Do they believe that I can do this? And when I answered those three questions, it became pretty obvious to me that yeah, I needed to go. I wanted to go, and they wanted me to go, and felt that I could be a big part of it. And that's kind of the way it ended up. And for me, it was just a dream come true, and something that again, in a long career of milestones and things that have happened, it'll be probably one of the highlights, if not the top of my list of things that I'll always remember.
Well, it was obvious when you were there how you contributed on the field, but how then did you also feel like you contributed off the field? Because you just stated you weren't sure if they believed, but you believed that you could bring something to this group and to this team, not just on the field, but off the field. With some of those veteran leadership qualities, or however you are as a leader, what did you think you brought to this group off the field? Because there are a lot of young players on this, or were on that World Cup roster.
Yeah, I just think it was a calmness with, just to be able to take a step back and have guys understand, where they are, where they were, what we were doing, and again, it was my first experience at a World Cup as well. So I can't sit there and say, I knew what to expect, or I knew how to behave, or I knew how to act, or I had experienced a World Cup. DeAndre was the only one. And having him there was really important in terms of that experience of being there, doing that, having been at a World Cup. But for me, it was just being able to sit back and kind of take everything in and help the guys kind of gravitate towards each other even more so. I mean, listen, everybody on this team is really good friends, right? Everybody gets along really, really well, has a lot of things in common. I'm probably an outlier in all of that, being my age, and being able to sit down, and have different conversations with different guys, not just about life, just about experiences, about things that were going on that may have been affecting everybody. It was nice being able to kind of bring guys and keep guys level-headed and keep their feet on the ground and not think, wow, we're at a World Cup, like this is huge. Yeah, it is, but at the end of the day, we're all going out and playing a game. And it was just those conversations behind the scenes, being able to bring everybody, like I said, together and help everybody just be themselves and be calm and not have to overthink things, I think was the biggest thing that I wanted to make sure guys were comfortable with.
You just stated that DeAndre Yedlin was the only one who had played in a World Cup before. Do you think it helped, though, and was beneficial that there were quite a few guys on this roster that had played sort of in high pressure situations and leagues overseas? Does that make a difference? Or is it just when it's a World Cup and you're representing your country, it's next level and nothing can really fully prepare you for that? Because I feel like in the past, maybe there hadn't been ever a moment where there were this many players that were playing, overseas in a little bit more high pressure situations than necessarily MLS. We'll leave the like pro rel MLS debate for another day, but just, did you feel like that benefited the group?
Without a doubt, yeah. When you have guys who've played in big games, Christian in the Champions League final, guys who were playing in top 5 leagues around Europe, and playing in high, like you said, high pressure situations. Of course, it's going to be beneficial. Are they more high pressure in the World Cup? Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. There's no higher pressure than that. But say, for example, you didn't have those guys playing in those games, right? The jump and the gap in the amount of pressure would be that much greater, and I think would be that much more overwhelming, to where for us, we had so many guys who have been in those moments, been in high pressure games, and either succeeded or they failed, and that's okay. But at least they felt that they felt the anxiety, the nervousness, the pressure, the eyes of the world kind of watching. I think that's, you can't replicate a World Cup except going to a World Cup, right? But you can replicate pressure, and guys being in those situations, as many guys had been before that. You looked at the faces, and guys were like, all right, we've been in these types of situations, maybe not this high of pressure, but we know what to expect. We know who we are, what we are, and what we had to do. And you could see that just in the eyes. You didn't even have to hear anybody speak, but just seeing it in guys' eyes, you knew everybody was ready, because they had been in those types of games.
It felt that way even just watching from back here, like even during warmups or when the whistle blew, there was like a different not necessarily like a swagger and a confidence, but like you stated before, bringing a calmness. Like there was like this energy and this feel that like we can, I don't know. And maybe you were kind of speaking to that, but it just, even watching it on television and watching warmups, and when the whistle blew, it was like a different sense from the United States men's national team than maybe we hadn't seen before at this level in a World Cup, where it just felt like we belong here. It's not, I don't know. Was that how you guys felt about it?
Yeah, I think that the best way to describe it is that the focus, that once we got onto the bus heading to the stadiums, it was not like anything I had seen in the group previously, and I've been a part of a lot of groups, but it was, it was very, very different in such a good way. Like the focus was incredible, and I think because of the way we were set up and in the hotel and together for so long, we were able to, away from the games, we were able to kind of let ourselves down, hang out, just chill, and that allowed us to then, once, like I said, once we stepped on the bus and we're heading to the stadium, there was just like a focus about guys, and like you said, a calmness, not a nervous focus, but you could just tell like the way guys were just like, there was just no tenseness. I don't know how or why. I just think guys were so confident, and again, that goes back to knowing who you are and knowing what you bring to the table, what you bring to the team. I think is really important in those situations, and nobody was doing anything more than what they were, what their role was, and when you have that and everything kind of matches up and the focus is there and the intensity is there, yeah, we went into every game thinking, what, yeah, why not us? Why can't we, we play well, why can't we win? And that was the whole feeling within the group throughout the entire tournament.
Yeah, it felt like you guys, like when you stepped on, you're like, you were going to dictate play. You weren't going to wait and see what someone else did to you and respond, or or, the transition or counter. It was like you guys were going to step on there with a game plan and a style and an idea and just like dictate the way the game was going to go, which is maybe, and this is not a slight on any other U.S. men's national team, but it just felt like there was a little bit of a different energy from the group. There was always, you go back to some of the even back to like 94, there was a different sort of fight and energy to the group, but this was like a different sense. And I cannot think of the right word, but I feel like exactly what I'm talking about because you felt it and you experienced it. And was some of that due to the identity and the style and the philosophy and like sticking to the plan since Greg Berhalter had taken over that group, like regardless of maybe some outside criticism or why are they trying to play this way or whatever it might be? I mean, there's always criticism. It doesn't matter what you do, but was some of that just like the philosophy, the style, the confidence in the way you guys were going to go about it, everybody knowing their roles? I mean, was that just sort of implemented from the top? Did you guys feel that along the way?
Yeah, I think, listen, after 2018 and or not qualifying for 2018, there was a lot of things that needed to change. And it was, we talk about these cycles being full on processes, right? And it's never, you're never a finished product until the end of the cycle, and the World Cup is kind of the end all be all. And so it was a lot of work. It was a lot of camps, a lot of adjustments, within the group, with attitude adjustments were a big one. Guys, I think guys matured a lot during that cycle, leading into Qatar. And I think that was a big key, was that guys came in as some of them 19, 20, 21 years old, similar to now. But they were very young. And they had that swagger then, that like, oh, I'm the man. Well, yeah, okay, you're the man, but you need to be the man within the group. And I think that was a huge learning curve for a lot of the guys. And I think it benefited, everybody, because they knew now, okay, after 3 years, this is my role. This is where I fit in. This is how I fit in. This is this is what I need to do. These guys we talk about being a brotherhood, and only a small number of soccer players, youth to professional in the US, get to represent the US team, and get to be a part of the US program. And so, we were, just making sure that we created these bonds, and they became closer and closer and closer. And we had the trust of each other. And I think that was the biggest key, is that we trusted each other, and we were going to go out and we were going to do what our job was, what our role was. And we were going to try to take it to teams. And it was just a maturing over years. It's never, there's never this like this, there's this idea that, oh, like they should just get it, like it just happens. And it doesn't. It takes time. And it takes time to put a group together, and it takes time to gel. And I think over those 3 years, it guys, like I said, really, really matured, and became what they wanted to, but also understood what and who they were, and how they needed to play in order to get the best out of everybody else around them. And I think that was really, really key. And it definitely came from the top. For, like you said, for all the noise, for us, that's what it was. It was noise. It's not anything that we control. We control what happens in between the lines, and when the whistle blows. And I think guys understood that, and really took that to heart, and just went out and played their guts out. And I think that was pretty evident from the group games that we had.
If there was one moment in that World Cup where you can kind of look at and go, that year was your favorite moment, whether it was a team moment, an individual moment. I mean, it could be something as simple as a tackle. I mean, whatever. Like, was there one thing where you're like, God, this is a great life. Like, this is why I do what I do, and put in the hours, and the family makes the sacrifices, and you're like, this is what it's all for at the end of the day.
I'll say I had 3 moments that really stick out to me. The first one is no particular order, by the way. The first one is Tyler tracking back and making a sliding tackle. I don't even remember which game it was. I think it was it the Iran game? I don't remember. Either way, might have been England. I'm not sure. So him tracking back, I think it had to have been probably 50, 60 yards and making a tackle. The next one would be actually showing the maturity of the team and what we had become was after the Iran game. And yes, we were ecstatic to go through. We were so happy, but then to see the other side, to see the Iran players, how devastated they were, and having pretty much every single one of our guys approach one of them with a handshake, with a hug, with a pat on the back, a well done. I think that speaks volumes about the characters that we have within the group, which is important. And then the last one, and probably if I had to order it, this would be my favorite. Seeing my kids and my wife there in the front row of that first game against Wales, knowing what sacrifices they have made and the things that I've missed out with them, and the things that they've missed out with me. Having them there in the front row, cheering me on, seeing them during the warm-ups was probably one of those, again, and I keep referencing it, one of those moments that will just, like, it's just seared into my brain from that trip.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the things like that'll just last forever, and like all the time, the energy. I mean, thank goodness for FaceTime. I don't know what we all did before FaceTime when you're traveling as much as you are, and like
That's
just
so
those,
true.
or phones with just videos of whenever they're swimming or soccer games or whatever they're doing, like to be able to share those things when you are in a position or in a career, in a job that doesn't allow you to be at every single thing all the time. So that's awesome. I love that. It reminds me a little bit on an MLS scale of Messi now being here and his kids being in the front row, and like seeing like sort of the joy on his face, which I don't know if we've seen that from him in a long time at that level. So it kind of reminds me of that. Like, this is why you do the things you do at the time you do it. So I want to look ahead quick to 2026. I know you've got Oman tonight, which is crazy that we're talking to you on a game day. I know I already said that and I appreciate it. But 2026, I mean, where do you see yourself in this? I mean, what are you, 35 right now? I mean, almost 36. Is it 36 in October?
Yeah.
I mean, what would that be like though on your home turf to be wearing that crest and 2026 hosting the World Cup? And you talk about family being on the sidelines and there. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I always, and this has been a kind of a staple of mine, and my kind of mindset is trying to set short and medium and long term. And for me, a long term goal would be to make that 2026 World Cup team. Will it happen? I don't know. It's a long way away. It's a long, a long 3 years. It's a long cycle, and but that's kind of where I'm at. Medium in the medium term. I'd love to play in the Copa America next summer. Obviously, we still have to qualify for that, but yeah, listen, I love being a part of this group. I love being a part of the program, and helping in every single which way that I can, and being with these guys, they help me feel young. I know they a lot of them, and some of them, and I joke with them, some of them are actually closer in age to my oldest than they are to me, and to some of these guys, I'm actually twice their age, and they're only a few years older than my oldest. So yeah, listen, it's a goal, obviously, and one that I hope that I can reach. Again, it just goes back to working hard every day, trying to learn every single day, and then pushing yourself to the very maximum. If you don't get there, you don't get there, but at least you say you can say that you put that goal out there, and that you tried. But yeah, I would love to be a part of it, not because it's on home soil, not because it'll be the biggest one ever, but because I had a taste of it in Qatar, and I want another taste of it. But we'll see. Like I said, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. Hopefully, a lot more good than bad. But yeah, if I can make that happen, then yeah, I think it would be a pretty cool achievement. Especially at what, I'll be 38 at the time. So not many players can say that happened to them.
not many field players anyway.
No, yeah.
But I think, if there's one thing we've learned with technology and everything else, the way that people can take care of their bodies and all the regen and all that stuff. I don't know how anybody did it before, but
yeah, probably not very well. That's probably why they all finished playing at 33.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time so much this morning. I know you got the full slate ahead, and I look forward. I'm actually coming to the game tonight. I live here in St. Paul in Minnesota. So my husband and my daughter and I are heading to the game tonight. So we'll be cheering on from the stands, and we look forward to watching you on the pitch nights. Thank you so much for taking the time, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Nice, no problem, anytime.
All right, everybody, that's another episode of Sound of the Loons. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for another one next week. Looking for a way to get closer to your club? For just $25, Loons fans can join the Preserve, Minnesota United's official season ticket waitlist. Waiting usually isn't fun, but this waitlist comes with benefits. Being a member of the Preserve gives you early access to MNUFC single game tickets, partial season plans, and group tickets, as well as special pre-sales for other marquee events that come to Allianz Field. Visit MNUFC.com/preserve to join.